So you want to be a UGA again? Great. Today we'll be answering all the frequently asked questions to the returning UGA process. In the past, when you're hired, usually during your sophomore year, you sign a 1-year contract and you pretty much know that unless you make a really big mistake, you'll be hired back as long as you would like to be in the position. This year, we're rethinking that a little bit and making some pretty big changes so that we can make sure that we have truly the best students in this position. So what do we mean by the best? Well, we hope to cover that through this info session and really dive into what our expectations are of returning UGAs and how that may differ from your expectations of what it was like to serve during your first year in this role. Let's start with a pep talk. You may be wondering why we're asking you to watch this info session today. After much reflection as a team, we thought there are some changes that we could implement to ensure that we are all striving for awesome. We're hoping that through this process, you can share with us how being a UGA fits into your Space Jam. What are you going to do to make our residential communities thrive by choosing awesomeness? How are you going to contribute at your highest capacity to this position? And how are we helping you do that through our process? Some topics we will cover today will be what will be expected of you as a returning UGA, why is it important to hold returning UGAs to high standards, and what changes are there in regards to the returning UGA application, interview, and placement process. So what will be expected of you as a returning UGA? First of all, we expect an ability to demonstrate sustained growth in your position. We don't expect you to be perfect, but we do expect you to learn and grow from past experiences. At the beginning of the year, expectations are set that align with your UGA contract. As your supervisors, we'll work individually with you during one-on-ones to further clarify your specific expectations and have check-in conversations if we see that they're not being met. Growth is a part of any job, especially the UGA job, so it's not a one-strike-and-you're-out type of policy. But we do expect that you'll be aware of where growth is needed and strive to meet those full expectations of this job while also modeling excellence for others. That being said, being a leader/role model on your staff team is pretty important. We love that as a UGA, you serve as a leader and role model on your floors. As a returning UGA, we now expect you to also serve in those roles on your staff team. You have at least one term of knowledge and wisdom under your belt, and we now expect you to utilize what you've learned to help new UGAs. So what could this potentially look like? Maybe you help your AD present on a training session during the fall to give the new UGAs a real-life perspective. Think about what you're involved on campus or what you feel like you're an expert in. Could you present on something during staff meeting? Maybe you can take the lead on a program with your fellow UGAs since you now have experience in advertising, booking rooms, and obtaining a pro card. The list goes on and on. We expect intentional efforts to build mentoring relationships with new UGAs. In your 15 to 20 hours a week, we believe that you may not have to spend as much time learning in your job. We hope that you can utilize some of this extra time to help build mentoring relationships with new UGAs and help them when they need it. So what could this look like? Maybe you can take out a new UGA to lunch and help them understand what it means to complete a continuing education credit. Or you can go on your first community walkthroughs together and really explain the process more in depth to ease some concerns they might have. We also expect an understanding that all parts of the UGA job are important. We get it. Administrative tasks aren't everyone's favorite part of the job. We also understand that your academics come first. But in reapplying for this position, you are well aware of what's being asked of you. We want you to have the understanding that turning in receipts, participating in big weekend rounds, closing, and being an active and involved member of the staff team are really important and necessary parts of the job, and you should pass these skills on to new UGAs. Finally, we hope that you have an open and honest relationship with your supervisor. As your supervisors, we often don't know when something is going on unless you tell us. We like to think that we're an understanding and empathetic bunch, but we can only make accommodations when we know something is going on. After you have a conversation with your supervisor, they will work with you to make sure that you're both on the same page and set out expectations moving forward. So what are some of the things we don't want to see in a UGA? We don't want to see a UGA who's only doing this job for the money. We understand that college is an expensive experience, and every bit of money you can get can help lessen the burden. However, we hope that you see the value in your role in shaping the experience of our residents in the residence halls. If you're solely doing this job to get paid, this position might not be the best for you. We don't want to see a UGA who doesn't play the part in developing the staff team and morale. It can be a very demoralizing experience to sit in a staff meeting next to a UGA who is disengaged and staring at their phone the entire time. It also isn't fun to do 2 hours of community walkthroughs with someone who complains about it. We want our UGAs to be comprised of positive individuals who still have a zest for the role. We don't want to see a UGA who is doing the bare minimum just to slide by. We want to see you put your greatest effort into this position at all times. If that means you need accommodations from your supervisor, please let them know as soon as possible. Just make sure that the experience of your residents is not being compromised because you think it's okay to throw something together in the very last minute. Finally, we don't want to see a UGA who is so overwhelmed with other organizations or activities that they don't have the time to give the position the time it deserves. As a role model for your staff team and residents, we expect a certain level of self-awareness. It is expected that the UGA role is your second priority here after academics. If you feel like that might be too much to ask for, this position might not be the best for you. We want you to feel your best so that you can give the best to your residents. So why is it important to hold returning UGAs to high standards? First of all, we want to help you continue to grow and develop in this job. If you feel like you have a wealth of knowledge after your first year, we would say you're probably right. But that doesn't mean you don't have any more learning to do. Growth in every job, but particularly this one, is key. Continuous training is really important. Think continuing education credits. If you get to the point where you feel like you've done every single training you can on campus, or properly addressed every possible situation you face as a UGA on the job, talk to your supervisor about new opportunities for growth. We want to build the reputation of the position within the Dartmouth community. Both maintaining and building the relationship and reputation of the position will allow us to recruit stronger candidate pools, work more effectively across campus with residents and colleagues, and aid you in pursuing other opportunities on and off campus. We also feel that this is what will be expected of you when you leave the Dartmouth community and pursue future careers. As much as you may see being a UGA as simply being part of your Dartmouth experience, you'll take many of the skills and experiences from this position on with you into your next role. It's our hope that while working for the Department of Residential Education, we're preparing you with real-world skills that will help you in your future career, whether you take away skills in crisis management, event planning, organizational skills, or relationship building strategies. This position will give you the necessities to strive wherever you go next. For those reasons, we want to prepare you with having set high expectations of you while you're still here and hold you accountable for the same things your future supervisors will. Finally, you need to remember that new UGAs look up to you as role models. Many of you watching this info session will have probably been on staff with someone who didn't seem like they were fully committed to the job. Maybe this was known through side comments that they would make during one-on-one interactions. Or maybe they would make a comment masked by sarcasm when they were with the full staff team. You may notice that they put little effort into their bulletin boards, and it's not from a lack of skills, but instead from a lack of trying. Maybe you went on a community walkthrough together and they complained the whole time about how they didn't think it was important or how much better things they had to do at that time. Now don't get us wrong. We all have bad days, bad weeks, and even bad terms. But in hearing these examples, are these the kind of peers that drive you to continue to grow in this job, seek out new opportunities, develop deeper staff bonds, or feel like they would even be willing to help you out during a tough situation? I'm going to offer a suggestion and say maybe not. And actually wonder why this UGA is even in the position in the first place. These UGAs make it hard to stay excited about the job because in their eyes, it's not worth it anymore. As supervisors who would rather not micromanage their staffs, we as ADs have to ask, why are you then a UGA? We want UGAs who are excited about this leadership opportunity, who want Dartmouth to be a safe, fun home away from home for their residents, and UGAs who lead by example and embody passion and leadership in all that they do. At this point, you're probably asking yourself, what changes are there this year in regards to the returning UGA application, interview, and placement process? We will now go into the details of the application, interview, and placement process. The returning UGA application will start by asking you all the information you usually fill out on any job application. For example, you'll be asked to fill out your name, where you live, what terms you'll be on next year, and other commitments you might have outside of the UGA role. In addition to that, you will be asked to respond to a new essay question. In this essay question, we'll look for you to really go in depth about your experience so far as a UGA and how you will continue to grow as a leader in the upcoming year. What ideas would you have for programming, or how might you collaborate with your house professor in the future? What areas of training would you like to see more of, and how can you make that happen? If you're interested in applying for a living and learning community, you will also be asked to respond to an essay question. You can find the essay questions for particular LLCs you're interested in on our website. Finally, you will be asked to collect a professional reference from your current AD. As your current supervisors, we as ADs are able to speak to the quality of your work and level of commitment you've demonstrated in this capacity. Make sure you're having conversations with your supervisor about areas of growth so you can work on them as you apply to return for the position. Once you have submitted your UGA application, you will receive an invitation for a 30-minute formal interview with your current AD and another AD. An email will be sent to you to find a time that works for all parties. Please come prepared to reflect on your past term or terms as a UGA. You will then receive a score based on whether or not you've met expectations in your current or past role as a UGA, and if they believe you will be able to meet expectations in the future. Your score will be used to determine whether you will receive a placement for the upcoming year. This means that current UGAs do not get their jobs back automatically. They are rehired based largely on their performance in the UGA position. All of these expectations are listed clearly in your UGA contract from this past year, as well as in the returning UGA portion of the residential education website. The group of ADs, together with the residential education lead team, will then come together to determine the best fit for all returning UGAs. This means that just because you're a returning UGA, it does not mean that you will automatically receive your top placement in the building or room of your choice. Residential education's top priorities are to place UGAs in their house community or on a fire floor that feeds their house community, and who can keep continuity for the floor. Meaning, if we can get a 3-term UGA, that would be great, but we hope not to have more than 2 UGAs in one position for the year. This year, it is possible for a returning UGA to be put on the UGA selection waitlist. A returning UGA could be placed on the waitlist because they don't meet the 2 reasons listed above, or because they have not met the expectations set forth at the beginning of the year or term. You will be notified of your placement starting around April 14th. We want to make sure to remind you that much of the process is not changing, and we're simply making sure to follow through on the expectations that we laid out for you. It is our job as your supervisors to make sure that we're always encouraging you to grow within your position. We understand that this is a lot of information in a very condensed amount of time. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out to your current AD or directly to the UGA Selection Committee at uga.selection@dartmouth.edu.